G'day and welcome to another episode of Larrikin Japan. Today I thought I'd answer a bit of a question I get often is it difficult living in Japan? So we'll go through this and have a bit of a think about it. Now, I think when you first come to Japan for the first year or two, yeah, it is quite difficult. Everything's different, all the customs are different. It just takes a lot to get used to. I was sort of pretty lucky because my wife is Japanese. So, like filling out forms and all this sort of stuff, going to the immigration and town office and all this sort of stuff, she came with me and it made it a lot easier. But, for the first bit, you have to go get a driver's license, open up bank accounts. Now, getting a driver's license, it was a bit confusing because, things are different. Like in Australia, you do an eye test, you just read the alphabet, where here they use like a circle with a little piece cut out of it, and you have to tell them which way the cutout is, if it's up or down or right or left. And I never had seen anything like that, so that was very, very different, so I really didn't understand how it worked. So a lot of things is quite confusing when you first come, getting used to, the language and all this sort of thing. But over time, it gets easier. Like now, living here, it's just sort of second nature. I think it'd be difficult going back to Australia and living, to tell you the truth. But here, yeah, it's sort of just normal now. I don't have any real problems with it. But, like when I came 30 odd years ago, like I had no idea what I was going to do for a job or anything. When I first came, I came over on a tourist visa. And then we changed it into a spousal visa, and then I could work. So I sort of started teaching English. So back then you could make a decent living teaching English. The money wasn't bad. But as time's gone on, the salaries are getting worse and worse. Now, I really think you would have a hard time if you came to Japan and tried to teach English and make a living. I think you'd be really struggling. But, so, like, I think if I was coming to Japan now, I'd be trying to start up my own business. I'd be trying to, I'd do a bit of research into it, find out what are good businesses to have. Like, IT and all that sort of stuff's pretty good. You can do a lot of that. You can do a lot of remote work now too, which is pretty handy. But teaching English is sort of pretty well dead. You could start up your own English school, but if you were in a rural area, I think it's pretty hard. There's not enough kids. It's pretty hard to get enough students. But like if you're in a city environment, if you're living in a city and there wasn't that many English schools around, you could probably get an English school going and you could probably do okay. But it's going to take you, I would say, a couple of years. You'd be struggling for a couple of years to get enough students and to build up your business. I wouldn't expect to come over and I'm going to start an English school and expect you to be making money straight off. You'd want to have a fair bit of money behind you, backing you to carry you for a couple of years. That's what I would be planning on doing. I wouldn't be thinking of just coming over here and think you're going to make a killing straight off. It's going to take time to build up a business. So I got a mate, he bought an akiya and sort of renovated it, and he put a cafe in there, and he does pretty good. But now it's winter. He's up in Nagano. He's got a YouTube channel, Rural Japan. And now with winter coming on, the cafe's not real busy because of the snow and things. So he doesn't get a real lot of business over the real winter months. So you have to be really careful on what you do and where you want to locate and that sort of thing. But, you know, like, the longer you live here, the easier it gets. Like, you know, I opened up a post office account. I just opened that up by myself. You know, I just went by myself and opened it up. It wasn't that difficult to do. But getting a credit card took a little bit ago. It was a little bit difficult because the way you have to do write your name in Japanese. There's different types. You got like kanji, which is no good for me because I don't have kanji for my name, so I have to write it in like katakana. But there's two types of katakana. You got a full width katakana and a half width katakana. So some things you have to write in half width. So if you don't, it won't go through. So it took me a few goes to get the credit card organised. The same thing with YouTube, trying to get YouTube payments worked out. It took a fair bit. And it's all to do with how you write the katakana, you know, so you have to be, some things are quite confusing and a little bit difficult. But it's just, that's the way it is. You just have to grin and bear it, you know, there's no use complaining about it. But on the whole, living in Japan, I think, is quite easy. You know, everyone's really polite. I was talking to a couple of my kids in Australia over Christmas. I think it was Christmas Day. And one of them, he works at Woolworths, and he was saying the day before, he said, oh, you only got threatened to be beat up once. I said, you're kidding? He said, no, it's quite often happens. You know, people come in and they're aggro and want to fight you and this sort of stuff. You know, you don't hear of this stuff here. People are pretty polite to staff in shops and things like that. But in Australia, they want to fight you, you know. And then other son, he's now, he works at a hospital. He's like a nutritionist, so when new patients come in, he has to go and talk to them and see if they've got any dietary things, you know, they can't eat or anything like that. And there was an Aboriginal guy, and he went in to see him, and the guy was on the phone. He said, oh, I have to go now. I've got a white fella here come to see me or something, you know. So, yeah, he said it's pretty, you know, so some of these guys are pretty racist too, you know, like, so it's just, yeah, part and parcel. So, but here, people are usually pretty polite, you know, you don't really have any trouble. You know, you don't get people really arguing with you. Japanese people don't want conflict. They're very understanding sort of thing, or they just don't want conflict, I think, is the main thing. You know, if you go to a restaurant or something and you order a meal, you just order it, you just get it how it comes. You don't go chopping out, oh, I don't want this, I want this, and I don't want this because it, blah, 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 you know. You don't change things. That's not sort of how things are done here. You just sort of take it how it comes. Where I think some foreigners, they want to change things around. They don't like this. I don't want avocado. I want, you know, this. I want tomato instead of avocado. You know, this doesn't sort of happen here. So you have to be careful with that sort of thing. But on the whole, living here is pretty okay. You know, I don't have any real complaints about it. And I think a lot of guys I know who have lived here a long time are the same, you know. And like we were talking one time about, you know, that's what they said. They couldn't go back to their own country, you know, go back to America or whatever, you know. It's just not on the cards, you know. They're quite happy here. And I think this is how it is, you know. It's just sort of easy living here. And at the moment, with prices and things like that, you know, in Australia, if you go to Sydney, you can't buy a house for under $1 million, you know. We're here, when we built this house over here, we got this house over here, when we built it about 20 years ago, I think it was around about 300,000 it probably cost us. And I borrowed money from the bank. I think I borrowed a bit over $250,000, 260,000 I think I borrowed. And I just borrowed it, no problem. I had no problem borrowing the money. So, you know, things aren't that bad, you know. So it's not a bad place to live. And with the prices everywhere, now Canada, I just had a bloke commenting on a video before, he said Canada's gone crazy, you know, it's so expensive living in Canada now. So, you know, Japan I think is quite a easy country to live in. It's not that difficult. There is a bit of racism and that sort of thing, but it's sort of not that bad. And, you know, depending on where you are, people will sort of stare at you a bit. But around here where I live, I don't have any problem. I've been here that long now. People are used to me. So I haven't got a real big problem with that sort of thing. On the whole, I think Japan's a pretty good country to live, actually. It's safe. It's reasonably clean. You know, there are people who throw stuff out the windows of cars and that sort of stuff, throw their cigarette butts on the ground and that sort of thing. But on the whole, it's not a bad place to live. So anyway, yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on it. I think Japan is pretty easy. I think in the beginning, the first couple of years, I think it is tough living here. I think if you just came over by yourself and you didn't know much about it, I think you could have a bit of a hard time. But the longer you're here, I think the easier it is. Yeah, the easier it is to sort of settle in and adjust to it. But once you've been here a while, yeah, I don't have any real problem now. I just call it, you know, it's just like home to me. It's not like I'm living in a different country, it's just sort of home. So anyway, let me know and your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be really happy to read them. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.